So now let's move over to the financial markets as well as the equities markets, a review for this week. It has been just 4 trading sessions this week. Remember that on Tuesday, the markets was closed in honor of Nigeria's former President General Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away. That was on Sunday. So the markets was closed on Sunday. But nevertheless, the market still had some impressive activities. We had, first of all, the Naira hitting a 4-month high. We had the inflation numbers being released. We also had we also had the milestones, 3 milestones recorded this week, which is almost adding to what we had last week. We had 3 milestones last week, 3 milestones this week. So it's been a week of milestones for Nigeria's equities market. So we'll talk more about that and other factors or issues or developments within the fixed income space. And we have Nabila Mohammed, financial market analyst with Chapel Hill Denham, to give us details of that and what to expect in the coming week. Thank you for joining us, Nabila.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Okay, so now let's talk first about FBN Holding Company, where influential businessman, business mogul, activist, investor, as well as, well, we might even call him an author because he's about to launch his book. We're talking about Mr. Femi Otedola, who is a chairman of 2 listed companies, Geregu Power and FBN Holding Company. He's also the majority shareholder there. So now let's talk about that holding company. How was the impact being felt following his acquisition of 36.7% equity in that listed company?
So to start with, since last year when he started to consolidate his holdings in the company, it's not a surprise to us that we definitely see him want to do more with in the subsequent years. And that's exactly what happened this week. He just consolidated his ownership of that particular bank, that First Bank, and we would expect that with this new ownership in charge, they are going to make sure that in terms of running the business or the affairs of the entire financial institution, it will be very, very optimal. So we are just looking forward to the years of his reign, the subsequent years of his reign, and how he plays this particular ownership in terms of managing the affairs of the entire holding company.
Okay, so now, Nabila, we've talked about Mr. Femi Otedola, but let's get to the deeper side of the market. 130, almost 131,000. Just yesterday it crossed the 130. The previous day it crossed into 128. Now, several factors have been listed as being behind the stock exchanges all-share index going into record milestone never been seen before. Now, what can you pinpoint or attribute to this stellar performance of the market within the first 2 weeks of July?
So I would attribute it to a number of factors. This is the period where we start to see earnings being released. And we all know how there is this expectation that across board earnings will be strong, especially for the non-financials, given that they are coming from a low base and how they poorly performed last year as a result of the FX exposures that they had in their books and all that came with it. So there is that expectation that they are going to do well. Q1 was already a premise for that because we saw most of these consumer names return to profits. I'm going to give examples like of International Breweries that hasn't even recorded profits in the longest time. But in Q1 2025, it did so. And this is just one out of so many others, likes of Nigerian Breweries, likes of Cadbury, likes of Nestle, just to mention a few. They are going to deliver stronger numbers because if you look at exchange rate over the period, it has been relatively stable. As we mentioned when you were giving your opening, we've recording new highs lately in terms of how our exchange rate has performed, and that is positive for them. Overall, this week has actually been good because we saw inflation number also come out with a sustained disinflation for the month of June at 22.22%. That is also something that tells that things are looking good currently. And investors just want to take position right now and not necessarily wait till when their expectations materialize. So it will be too late then for them to reap the benefits of the gains that the market will come with, given the results that are going to be positive. Now, if we're looking at the financials, we already know that as well they are going to give strong numbers. Even when the forbearance news came out, the CBN did come to clarify how they intend to support the banks out of this space. And so most of these banks made disclosures explaining how they intend to exit. Most of them say they will exit by H1 2025. And this just gave some form of respite in the minds of investors that these banks are indeed making strides to come out of this particular forbearance regime. They are well known for paying dividends. Investors also want dividend returns. And most of the ones that pay interim dividends are also going to do so if they are able to exit the forbearance regime. Let's not forget, some of these financial institutions are holding companies. If the bank itself cannot pay, they would definitely get, investors will definitely get payments in form of dividends from their other holding company structures, the other vertical businesses within the holding company structure. So it's really just a good time. But again, in as much as it's a good time, there's always going to be a time when the market will, slow down in terms of the value that we're seeing. But overall, the factors that are fueling this performance have the fact that there's expectation for strong earnings across board. Inflation came out at a lower print for the month of June, and people are just taking positions ahead of dividend announcements and dividend payments. You may even see some surprises. I don't do that out either.
Nabila, I know you're hungry to give us much more details, but of course, time is never your friend. But I know that next week, the MPC will be meeting, and of course, inflation, the low inflation rate is a factor to consider, as well as the FGM bond auction coming up most likely on Monday, if fingers crossed. But we thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on the show in time to come.
Thank you for having me.